You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Already struggling with rising living costs, ordinary Europeans now face an even deeper hit to their livelihoods as the conflict in Ukraine pushes fuel and fuel prices higher, threatens to spark all-out recession.
The surging price of crude oil on world markets has led to the biggest ever weekly jump in gasoline prices at some service stations around Europe, pushing them in some cases above €2 or $2.21 for a liter of unleaded fuel. The problem is not the price, it will be tomorrow, but how much gasoline will cost in 15 days from now. We think that it is going to cost much more. I think bad times are ahead of us, a 76-year-old Madrid pensioner Alejandro Oterino has said. That fear of prices spiraling out of control is precisely what the European Central Bank must try to allay at its meeting on Thursday, March 10, when ECB Chief Christine Lagarde will aim to prove it can keep a lead on inflation in the euro area that had already clipped a higher than expected 5.8% before Russia's invasion. There is a natural pressure on central banks to keep inflation expectations low via communication, but at the same time, they risk losing credibility, according to an economics professor at Leipzig University. In Portugal, Western Europe's poorest country with 10% of the population on a minimum wage of €705, motorists have been rushing to fill tanks before any prices hikes come in. A diesel car with a 50-liter tank costs €91 to fill up. Knock-on impacts are being felt already. Activity in the Portuguese-Spanish border have increased recently, as many drivers have decided to cross to Galicia or Extremadura in Spain to fill their tanks cheaper. German motoring organization ADAC have estimated that diesel prices had spiked a massive 28% in 6 days, in part because homeowners were stepping up to purchase of heating oil is still used by many Germans to heat their houses. For now, increases in the end prices of food have been less dramatic, but with Ukraine and Russia both exporters of grain and Russia a major supplier of fertilizers, concern is growing that this will add to inflationary pressures as the war goes on. The fear now is that this will hit consumer spending ever harder, especially among the low-income households who fared worse during pandemic lockdowns in which they did not benefit from furloughs or face other hits to their livelihoods. First, the pandemic, with little work and about 70 or 80% of losses. Then the price of electricity starts going up. But the problem is that it does not stop going up. Every day it goes up and it has not doubled itself. It has tripled itself. People have gone from paying about €400 to €1,000. In Britain, the Resolution Foundation think tank estimated the conflict would lead to wider inflation, shaving 4% of the real level of typical household incomes over the coming year, the sharpest fall in nearly half a century. An expert says that the governments now must inevitably have to pump more support into the economy to help the worst hit. The only way to avoid the vicious circle of more inflation was for the bank to pursue its tightening path.